A lot can happen in a decade. Dynasties can rise, and they can fall.
Michigan makes a stand!
Miracles may be witnessed. Tears can be shed from joy or from pain. Dreams can be crushed, or they can come true.
All right, what's happening, everybody? College Football Rush, episode 56, man. It was a wild and crazy weekend for me. Hopefully it wasn't crazy for you guys, but all good things. Moved into a new place, as you see. Don't really have anything set up, but we will. We will have everything set up and ready to go here probably in the next week or two. Order some shelves, put some jerseys up in the background, do all the fun stuff. But if you are new, I'm everybody's favorite couch quarterback, Dante, and this is our weekly college football show where we talk about everything college football. A lot of stuff happened over the weekend. I'm still trying to catch up from everything, so I'm I'm gonna try to give some of the opinions the best I can on these weeks past games. I was able to catch just a handful, was able to rewatch, a couple things here and there, but I think the topics that I've chosen today are going to be pretty relevant to, this new week. So can't wait to get in and just dig right into it. So shout out to the chat, man. Looks like Logan's in the chat. Speaking French, man. Stop speaking French because I don't understand it. Dan Dewberry Sports, my man Don said, new location, same great show. You got that right. Bros in a nuclear bunker. Man, you wish hey, that may be where I'm at, man. I may be, trying to prepare before things actually start going down here. But yeah, man, welcome to the show. Let's get right into the topic rundown for today. Virginia Tech's got a new coach. Did y'all hear the news? If you haven't heard the news, we're going to break the news for you today. Auburn's going to be in a quarterback rotation, which is kind of weird the way that things have panned out, but I got some opinions because I spoke about their quarterback situation a ton, over the last year or so, and I just want to go ahead and get right into that. Let me go ahead and mute some of these sources so I'm not echoing. An underrated quarterback that I don't think people are talking about enough. We're going to get into him and why I think you should consider him into your Heisman conversation. Of course, our game of the week and our Week 13 predictions. I will not have the bets for you, but I will have them on the website. So if you go to go.eastcoastgridiron.net, you can catch the great content over there where we'll post not only all of our predictions for the week for Week 13, but also the bets over there as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into it, man. So if you haven't heard the news, Virginia Tech's got a new coach, and his name is James Franklin. So everybody knows the situation that happened with Penn State. Whether you agree or disagree with it, a change was made. And I was on the side of this may be his last legs that he stands on for sure, and just didn't win enough big games, didn't really have enough big moments in the way that they were losing, up to this point, up to the point of his firing, was not something that people had in their deck of cards. I literally had Penn State in my national championship, and a lot of it was due to how good their team was going to be, regardless if you thought about the fact that they went to the transfer portal, they grabbed Devontae Ross, they're going to get Trevor Pena. They're going to get Kyron Hudson. They're bringing back that whole offensive line that a lot of them, are up there in draft talks right now. And then, of course, you look at their quarterback situation with Drew Aller and the way that things ended with him on him breaking his ankle and, ultimately being out for the season, and people have a little bit of sour grapes about letting 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗂𝘂 go to Mizzou, and he ultimately ends up getting injured. So it's just been a land of misfit toys for everybody that's involved. But the news broke, and they went ahead and they fired James Franklin at Penn State. And I literally was talking amongst the crew. I'm like, I've had this strange feeling that if he doesn't go to Virginia Tech, he's got to go to, you know, a Group of 5 school and work his way back up. But I think the more and more I sat and thought about this situation with James Franklin, the more I agree with why he's at Virginia Tech. You know, not why, but the reason why, you know, picking Virginia Tech was the right move. As long as they're patient, I think things are going to work out for them, right? So Virginia Tech, you know, first of all, is a great option. If you've ever been to a game in Blacksburg, it's one of the best atmospheres out there, and nobody's used to big atmospheres and playing in big games more than James Franklin. He's going to be able to bring those guys back to prominence, in my opinion, and being able to show them that you can win big games and big moments. You know, at the school that Virginia Tech is, they haven't had a lot of those moments in their history since Frank Beamer was there, right? And we'll go back in time here in a second. James Franklin will not only be in a hotbed, but he'll be able to recruit better as well. Pennsylvania is one of those places that is fueling with talent, but even he had to go to California to find a guy like Troy Hunt, who ends up decommitting after he gets fired from Penn State, right? And we'll come back to Troy here in a second. But Carolina, Georgia, Florida, he can go and recruit those states even more now, and being able to bring a cool thing with him of like, it's cool to play for Virginia Tech. We got the cool stadium at night, and, you know, we got Metallica playing, and it's one of the best atmospheres to play in. So being able to get those recruits to buy into that and the way that he is, you know, is ultimately a good thing. And the way that he turned down a lot of money to come play here proves to, you know, the families and the kids themselves that he's worried about football. Like, he's worried about the kids, and he wants to ultimately see success at Virginia Tech. He could prove a lot. I mean, he's the ultimate program builder, right? Go back to his Vanderbilt days, built them up, went to Penn State after the debacle that happened, you know, and then Bill O'Brien comes in and gets the back up, and he took the mantle and literally got them a Big Ten championship a couple years in. The thing about Virginia Tech, if you go back in their coaching, in the coaching space, right? Justin Fuente was the last coach there, and this was in 2016, where they had their last 10-win season. So imagine James Franklin in 2 or 3 years getting their first 10-win season, or several 10-win seasons, ACC championship appearance. He would be a legend amongst the people down there in Virginia Tech and Blacksburg. I mean, just overnight. Can he correct the things that he failed at is the thing that I'm looking most closely at in this whole acquisition. If there's one thing that's been kind of a put a Band-Aid on the bad situation year to year to year, is him recruiting wide receivers. He would be close to getting a pretty good wide receiver from a lot of those states that grow a lot of good wide receivers now. You know, he has recruited the state of Tennessee, and he'll be closer to Tennessee now since his Vanderbilt days. So he'll be able to kind of grab some guys down there and build his pipeline up even more. Can he bring in better coordinators? Not saying that Tom Allen and, you know, the rest of those defensive coordinators, Andy 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and those guys aren't good coordinators, but he needs to find the right fitted coordinator. And what I mean by that is not going and trying to go in there and grab coordinators that do things that are, you know, out of the box and that are going to come and mix up your team and your chemistry because they've done really good things at other schools. No, really bring in the guys that are going to follow your philosophy and get you guys to the place that you need to. Like, Andy 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝘀𝗀, by all accounts, is a very, very polarizing offensive coordinator. He does things that are not on the cuff. but find more chemistry with your coordinators. I think that'll ultimately help not only recruiting, which he's a recruiting superstar, but to get his team back to prominence. Develop his quarterbacks. Can you develop your quarterbacks from here on out? That's going to be the biggest thing that gets held over your head, because a lot of people think that you did not do Drew Aller justice in the way that things were handled there at Penn State. But here's a positive. Regardless of how we want to think about Penn State and the way that he got fired, how many players that decommitted were insane. But will those decommits now follow him to Virginia Tech and go ahead and build their program up? One of the prominent ones was Kevin Brown. He was an offensive lineman, and he was Penn State through and through, his commitment. Until recently, he decommitted, and my jaw was in the ground because, like, he locked down his commitment with Penn State. Now, today, he announced that he's going to West Virginia. So we can automatically knock Kevin Brown out of this equation here. But Troy Hun, 4-star quarterback out of California, can he bring him back? Davion Brown, can he bring him? Elijah Littlejohn, Jaziel Hart, LeVar Keys, Kamon Spell, Leighton Von Brandt, and Gabriel Jenkins, a cornerback for the 2027 class. So a lot of these guys are 4 stars from the 2027 class. Can he now bring those recruits over to Virginia Tech and build those guys up in a couple of years where they're actually going to be very, very good? How many of the current players that are at Penn State, how many of those guys are going to follow him to Virginia Tech now? Like, this is looking, when you think about it, is building more positives than it is negatives. Now, what's going to be really hard for people in the ACC, like the Mike Norvells and the Mario Cristobal's, 2 guys that are known to be really good recruiting guys. Look, you bring another recruiting powerhouse in James Franklin in ACC, your recruiting pool has just closed up severely now that he's there. If there's anything, he's going to bring the talent to Penn State all over the place, and especially, finding the right coordinators that are going to help them recruit really, really well. Regardless of what you think about the play calling on the field, those guys are always recruiting powerhouses, and it starts with him as well. This is a great opportunity for him to bring a classic brand and a popular team back to prominence. There's no college football without Virginia Tech being good. I know they're not a blue blood or anything like that, but to me, when I grew up, it was Virginia Tech, and you had to play them hard because they brought things to the plate that teams were not expecting. They played fast. They played physical at night, and they were always one of those teams at the end of the day that you hate to play them at home. I think that's what he's going to bring back to their program. No matter how successful he gets, it's a great team to grow with, and here's the main point, to stay with. This job is a job where he doesn't have to use as a stepping stone. I would love him to build this program up and stay with Virginia Tech for the long run. The only expectations that he should have is to get them better than what they've been, and then everything else is just the icing on the cake. A couple ACC championships, a college football playoff appearance in a couple years, he would be like a god out there for Virginia Tech. And I think he can do those things. This is a low-pressure situation for him with nothing but a positive atmosphere, and I believe those folks down there in Blacksburg, and I think the ACC really has to worry about that now he's there. Look, as a Florida State fan, I'm scared. I'm scared because there's no better evaluation period for a man than to find himself in adversity and to try to be better at what he's done from his past. And you're doing that with James Franklin. You don't think he's hearing all the noise about, oh, you should have been better here? Maybe he did let off the gas a little bit. But there's nothing more exciting for him than finding a great job like this, because it is a great job in my opinion. To find a great job like this, to put the pressure on the rest of the country, and to bring Virginia Tech back to prominence. There's a lot of people that are going to be clamoring at the bits for him again, but I think he should stay put. And I think at the end of this thing, we're going to be looking at James Franklin as one of the best coaches of all time. When you really look at the situation. I know Very hard pressed to say, but I just kind of feel that in my heart of hearts at this point. Let's get over to the comments, man. The Miz is in Virginia now. Oh, snap. What's up, Edwin? How's it going? Logan gonna have 0 rank wins versus top 10 opponents. Metallica just gonna give him more aura than Mike Vick Hokies and Marcus Vick. People tend to forget about Marcus Vick playing down there. Yeah, man. I think all Hokies fans are pretty excited about this acquisition. But let's get into Auburn. Auburn's in a very, 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 very important situation. So their current quarterback, so Jackson Arnold was benched. You know, their transfer that came over from Oklahoma. Then they get another transfer in, Ashton Daniels from Stanford. He has not used his red shirt yet. So what the coach is doing, what he's decided to do, since they're playing Mercer this week, I believe it is, he's going to be sitting out this game to be able to use his red shirt because he's already 3 games in. You can't play more than 4 games. If you play more than 4 games, you haven't used your red shirt, then, it is what it is. You don't get it. So what he's going to do is sit out this game with Mercer, which is good because it should be an automatic win, right? And then play the last game of the season ultimately, which is going to be a hard game because they're going to play Alabama. Here's what they're deciding to do. The news came out today that, Deuce Knight and Jackson Arnold are going to be the 2 starting quarterbacks in this game and that they're going to split time most likely. So technically we're going to be seeing the debut of starter Deuce Knight kind of in this matchup. And it's going to be funny. I don't know why they went with how Jackson Arnold has been, how bad that he's been this season. I don't know why you just wouldn't give 100% of the snaps to Deuce Knight at this point in time. We've seen him come in against Ball State where they were winning 42-3. And I think he threw 2 passes and ran for, I think he ran 4 times in that game. So you got to see a little bit. Wasn't really his debut. I would say he's coming in as a kind of a relief quarterback because they were just beating the crap out of Ball State. But this is the first time where we're actually going to see him take meaningful snaps. And this is the best team to do it against a team like Mercer. Look, you have nothing to lose in this situation. Your season is already going down the toilet. Hugh Freeze is gone. If there's a good performance by Deuce Knight in this game, think about it like this. Just as the athletic director, as the school, take it from their standpoint. If he looks really good, it will look really good in hiring your next coach. It will make this position more desirable by having a Deuce Knight come out there and just be great in this game. Should they start Deuce Knight in the game against Alabama if he's really good? Yes. Why not? Tell Ashton to sit back. Their season is already done. But if he goes in there, let's just say it like this. Let's pull out a crazy scenario. But if he goes in and upsets Alabama, he will get the same height going into next season that Arch is getting, that DJ Lagway got, that the rest of these quarterbacks have gotten. And that puts nothing but positive eyeballs on Auburn. And let's just hope that he doesn't mess up. That's the only thing. But Deuce Knight, about to make his debut, being a left-handed quarterback, a dual-threat quarterback at that. The Cordell Stewart, Steve McNair vibes are we getting? Here's the thing. It's going to present a problem to any team that they go against right now, especially if you decide to start him against Alabama, because your backside guys have to be great front side guys because he's left-handed. So it presents a problem that they haven't faced yet this season. If Deuce is good, you also don't run the risk of losing the Cam Coleman or other young guys on that offense that may be at this point thinking about transferring. They lost their coach. They're having a bad season, and they haven't had any success. why even Deuce himself? Maybe Deuce is thinking about transferring, but if you let him start, especially against Bama, where he can feel what that energy is like in the Iron Bowl against their most hated rival, he could feel the impact of that rivalry. Why wouldn't you let him start in that game if he was really, really good? Again, Auburn, you have nothing to lose, but everything to gain from this. I see this being a really good situation, and just having Ashton Daniels just tell him, like, hey, yeah, we're going to redshirt you anyways, right? So you get another year eligibility. But at this point in time, we got a young guy that we need to develop, regardless if Ashton wins out the job going into the season or not. You just for sure put a cap on everything about all the talks of maybe Deuce and Cam and the rest of those guys transferring out, because now they're getting a little bit of burn, and now they get to show their talent against a really bad team. You get to beat on a really bad team, and your next coach maybe is more attracted to the job because you let this happen. Yeah, I'm excited to see what Deuce Knight's about, man. I watched a lot of his high school tape. I think he's really good. I think he's going to be a superstar in college. I'm not saying that he's going to be a Cam Newton or anything, but I think he presents a really cool opportunity for college football to see a really good dual threat guy. Because I think as well as he is at throwing the ball, he's just as good running the ball. And so it's almost like having a Lenore Sellers on steroids, in my opinion. I don't think he plays as reckless as a Lenore Sellers. I think he's a little bit smarter than that, but we'll see. We don't know. We can't come to these conclusions until he actually plays in the game. So can't wait to see what he's about this weekend. Watch him lose to Mercer. That's crazy work. Hopefully Auburn doesn't lose against Mercer. That would be really, really bad. Let's get into a quarterback that has not only the coolest name, but if you don't have him on your radar right now, you should probably start circling Gunner Stockton's name, because he's making Georgia better and better and better every single week. The last 4 or 5 games from Gunner Stockton, I don't want to say since that Ole Miss game where he kind of put them in the backpack and took them to victory, Gunner Stockton is a great quarterback. And he's going to be, and if he keeps flying on the radar, he's going to be the best quarterback that just flew under the radar all season and then just won a Heisman. Look, here's what I'll say. The second half comeback against Ole Miss had a lot to do with how good he was and how poised he was during the whole game. Him and Trinidad Chambliss were going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, they didn't really have a running game, but Ole Miss did. So you have to worry about 2 different things from their side. Kawan Lacey coming in there, I believe he had like 2 early scores in the game that kind of put them up at one point. And then Gunner Stockton, like I've been saying, Georgia is the best second half team that we've probably seen ever this year. It seems like they always go into halftime either trailing or in a really close game. Then now they're just pulling away towards the end. Let's get into a couple metrics about Gunner Stockton and why you guys should start paying attention a little bit more, for how he is. Total QBR, 90.1, which is 3rd in the country. Completion percentage under 15 yards, 79%. That's 5th in the country. Completion percentage beyond 15 yards is 36%, 108th in the country. So obviously he has to work on a deep passing game there, but what he does in the intermediate game has absolutely worked for him. Adjusted completion percentage in that Ole Miss game, 89.7%. Passer rating with a clean pocket, 89.9, ranks 22nd nationally. When pressured, 55.5. So when he faces pressure, there's a significant drop off. An adjusted completion rate, 81%, ranks 4th nationally. Can they be better? Can he be better on deep routes? Yes. But when the pocket's clean, he's looking like the best quarterback in the country. Now, it doesn't come without its flaws because we can look at their whole receiving core and be like, who is the real breakaway superstar here? A lot of people say Zachariah Branch, but he's their leading receiver on the team, and he's ranked 97th nationally. So they don't have a top 50 receiver on their team. Now, here's what I'll say also about Gunner Stockton, for those that don't know. This man is like the fourth quarter king. Y'all know how Bo Nix is tearing everybody up in the NFL in the fourth quarter? Now, that's a different story with Gunner Stockton. And I think this is where he's had his constant Heisman moments over and over and over again. This past weekend against Texas, in the third quarter, he threw an interception. How did he respond in the fourth quarter? 30-yard pass to London Humphreys. Then the next possession, the 6-yard pass to Lawson Lucky. After he had a 10-yard run to get them in plus territory. And then the third score was a 4-yard run by himself on 3rd and goal to seal the deal with less than 5 minutes to go in the game. Yeah, Gunner Stockton is the real deal. I know we talked about MVPs and Heismans and things like that and the best quarterbacks in the country. Look, I still have Ty Simpson at number 1. Julian Sane is rising up my board pretty quickly. But the one guy that's just flying under the radar that's just like at the beginning of the year, we're like, I don't know if Gunner Stockton's got the juice. Let me tell you what, Gunner Stockton's got all the juice and then some, man. I would definitely, if you guys don't have him on your radar, start to understand how good Gunner Stockton's been for Georgia. And he's continually gotten better throughout the season. A lot of people started to compare this to like Stetson Bennett. And I understand Stetson Bennett was in the Heisman conversation at one point in time. Or was in the Heisman conversation. Was a 2-time national champion. But we're talking about like quarterback-wise. I think Gunner Stockton is going to be a better quarterback than a lot of these former Auburn guys. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Matthew Stafford when he was at Georgia. And Georgia looks like the best team in the SEC at this point in time. I'm excited to see how Gunner develops for the rest of the year. I'm excited to see where Georgia actually ends up. And Georgia's is one of those teams, every time you think they're about to have a down year or have a game where they're not going to win, they just end up winning that game and coming out on top. I.e. the Ole Miss game. Everybody had Ole Miss beating them. I don't know what happened. It doesn't matter. These guys are good, and they're continuously going to put points up on people. And in the second half and fourth quarter, that's where Gunner Stockton shines the most. So if you don't have him on your radar, start putting Gunner Stockton on your radar really, really quickly. USC at Oregon, man, is the game of the week. A lot of interesting things to say about this game for sure. Of course, you got the quarterback battle that's going to happen. But the fact that these are two teams that came over in the Big Ten and they're sitting at 3 and 4 respectively right there at the top, right under Indiana and Ohio State in the Big Ten rankings. And so getting into the two quarterbacks, obviously Dante Moore and Jaden Maiava. Jaden Maiava may have the best receiving core in football right now. We're not too sure, but with Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, I'm sure that there's obviously a argument to be had. Then you get over to the head coach and just matchup, man. Dan Lannon and Lincoln Riley just seems like a rivalry that has not really unfolded quite yet. Both 6-1 in the conference. Obviously, USC is 8-2, Oregon's 9-1. But that's important for this matchup, that them both being 6-1, because you're banking on one of those teams at the top, Indiana or Ohio State, to take a loss in their impending matchup. Let's get over to the strengths of Oregon, right? Dominant run game. They're averaging 231.4 yards per game, and a top ranked pass defense, 27.3 yards per game. Their weaknesses, obviously, offensive stretches, the recent home loss to Indiana. That's one of the things that they're dealing with, but it's a good loss to take because Indiana is number one in the Big Ten right now as far as rankings. Not national rankings, but their Big Ten rankings, they're ranked number one. The bad part about it is that they lost at home. A place where when you go to Alton Stadium, everybody knows, we speak about it here all the time, that Alton Stadium is a place that you obviously just don't want to go and play football. Key players, obviously Dante Moore. Noah Whittington, is he going to be healthy enough to stay in a complete game? He's looked good as of recent, but he's battled some injuries. He's been banged up. Jordan Davidson, Kenyon Sadiq, Bryce Bocher, and then you have Mateo 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗓 and Thieneman that came over from Purdue's looked really, really good. He had a big moment against Penn State earlier this year, intercepting Drew Allard to seal the game in overtime. So they got a lot of key players. Dakorien Moore and Gary Bryant Jr. Also missed some time. They're expected to be also out again. We'll check the injury report here a little later this week to see if they play. But those are two notable ones. Dakorien Moore, obviously, Dante Moore's leading target out there at Oregon. Then you look at USC, right? Explosive passing offense, which is kind of like an oxymoron because you expect that from Lincoln Riley. Anytime that there's a quarterback, when you think about USC's offense, you always think about these guys going in there and putting the smack DZ on everybody. 𝗕𝙁𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, look, man, I said it once, I'll say it again. Ever since I've seen him play UNLV, I thought that he was going to be a pretty good quarterback. I knew he was going to take the job from Miller Moss, and it seems to be the decision that gets made from Lincoln Riley almost reminded me of when he switched from Spencer Rattler and went with Caleb Williams. Well, looks like Miller Moss got Spencer Rattler in the middle of the season last year, and they stuck with 𝗕𝙁𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 ever since. And he's been one of the best quarterbacks, so far this season. Vulnerable run defense, particularly on the road for them, which is obviously a weakness and where they struggled. So going against Noah Whittington and the boys, it's going to be very, very tough on them. Obviously, a strength is 𝗕𝙁𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and the strong receiving core that they have. Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane, King Miller, Eli Sanders. That running back core is just full of dogs. When we look out for the injury report, Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald, Keyshawn Silver, they exited the game last week with a couple injuries. So the matchups that I'm looking forward to are obviously Oregon's run game versus USC's run defense. Oregon's got a top-ranked rushing attack led by Noah Whittington, like we mentioned. They look to exploit the 126th rushing defense in college football. When you watch USC play, it doesn't look like they would have that bad of a rushing defense, but it's been just that bad. Their USC's passing offense versus Oregon's pass defense. They're going against one of the best passing defenses in college football. It seems like Lincoln Riley is starting to get his wits about him and being that defensive coach that we've always been looking for ever since his national championship time with Kirby Smart down there at Georgia. So the only thing that is pretty much the real kicker here is, will USC struggle on the road like they have been all season, especially in an environment like Alton Stadium? Look, I'm picking another upset this week. I know I picked the Indiana to upset Oregon at home, but is Dante Moore fully healthy? Will he get Dakorien Moore back? Can Kenyon Sadiq be consistent? Is their passing defense going to be as good as what they've been all season? Look, every dog has his day, but dealing with Makai Lemon, Jacoby Lane, and the boys is going to be a tall task. And it seems like 𝗕𝙁𝘂𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 has been getting better and better and better every week. They have shown that they can be beat at home. And so I'm going with USC Trojans, man. I was high on them at the beginning of the season. Do I think, do I think that Lincoln Riley is as bad as a coach as what people are saying? No. But I think this is the game where Mekhi Lemon may have 200 yards and 3 touchdowns and prove to the country that he is probably better than a lot of these receivers, named Jeremiah Smith and the guys out there. But, obviously this will make his draft stock rise way faster than a lot of other guys that he's competing with. So rest of the guys, Don has Oregon, Logan has Oregon, so they're staying with the home team. I don't blame them. It is what it is. My man K-Dub is in the chat. What's happening? He said, what's really good? Hey, man, moved into the new house and finally get to get a show rocking. So this is fun stuff. Just catching up. Let's get into our Week 13 predictions. I'm going to send you guys out of here, man. So Georgia Tech versus Pittsburgh. Well, Georgia Tech Pittsburgh just took a loss to Notre Dame. And obviously they're going to want to come back and beat a good team like Georgia Tech. I don't see that happen. I see Haynes King running all over them. Their freshman quarterback. I understand that, I don't know why they didn't keep Eli Holstein in. I'll never understand why they haven't gone back because he's been throwing so many picks. Their freshman's been throwing so many picks these last couple of games especially. But Logan's rolling with Pitt. Hey, they're a good team. UTSA versus East Carolina. We got East Carolina across the board there. Brendan Sorsby struggled last week. Bear Bachmeier just seems to have put his foot on the gas. I think we're all picking BYU in this matchup. Look, we're not saying that Brendan Sorsby is not a good quarterback, but BYU's team has been so sneaky good that it's hard to root against them. And this is another game that's hard to pick right here. Northwestern and Minnesota have been way better than what people have been giving them credit for this season. But I think my boy Preston Stone and the guys out there, I think the Wildcats pulled this one out. And all of us actually agree. I was very surprised. I thought this one was at least going to have one person choosing Minnesota. But, Northwestern for us. And I think in a close matchup. But I think that home advantage for them right now serves them really, really well this season. Let's see. I don't know what happened to. Oh, sorry guys. Let me get this back rolling here. My graphics all messed up. Hold on, let me get through this. Sorry about that. All right, there we go. Got that. All right. Yeah, Northwestern has been balling. Yeah, they've been really good. Sorry about that, guys. Had a lapse in graphics trying to get back in the routine. All right, Kennesaw State versus Missouri State. Missouri State at the beginning of the season, I believe that they went 7-0 or something like that, and they were absolutely ridiculously pretty good for their second year being in FBS football. But Missouri State's first year here, and they've been smacking people in the mouth, and I think me and the boys are going to go with Missouri State. Look, great team. Another team that's been kind of surprising this year is Ball State. They could have been the worst team in college football, and Toledo has been super disappointing, but I think this is where the Rocket Men get themselves back up, together and get a good win. I still think this is a close game. UNLV versus Hawaii. Now, Hawaii's got to make the trip over on the mainland, but I told everybody at the beginning of the season, I'm sticking to my guns on this one. I still think Hawaii's got the squad. Micah Alahada, they got the best kicker in the country pretty much, and love what Anthony Calandra and those guys are doing in Dan Mullen's first year at UNLV. I just don't think they're as dominant as they were last year. I don't want to say dominant because Boise State's still giving the business twice in the regular season and in the Mountain West Championship. But give me Hawaii. The rest of the guys picking UNLV. I think that game's a toss-up. Just depends on who's going to – I think it really depends on who wins the coin toss, to be completely honest with you. Oklahoma coming off a big win last week against Alabama, coming in and playing one of the most fearsome front sevens in college football in the Missouri Tigers. All of us are picking Oklahoma. John Mateer, still seems like that hand injury that he had is still lingering, but that defense showed up and they showed out, and they, Drew 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝗀 not being available for Missouri has really hurt them in the past couple of weeks, and I can still see the same happening. Is Eli Drinkwitz thinking about taking that job at Penn State? That's been the big rumor. I don't know. I think Penn State will suck if that happens. And then Texas State has been disappointing this year against the UL Monroe Warhawks. So we'll see. I think everybody's picking Texas State. Yeah, Texas State. I don't think they're going to roll them, but it's been so weird down there in the Sun Belt this year. If UL Monroe wins this matchup, I wouldn't be surprised. But you got to pick a guy. You got to pick a team, and Texas State is it. So, all right, guys. Kind of gave you the rundown there. Thanks for tuning in. It's the first one back. And then tomorrow we'll be back with NFL Rush as well. Appreciate everybody that came through. And if you're new, I appreciate you sitting in and listening to me talk about some college football. Enjoy the games this week, guys. We'll try to get some film studies and stuff, start rolling back up. I'm going to try to get like a whiteboard and everything. Get like a whiteboard cam so you can watch me actually, draw up some plays and things like that. And those should be some fun times. So we're getting to that part of the season where we're going to start to apply into some bowl games and the Senior Bowl and all that stuff, so we get you guys some content in the off season. But it's been everybody's favorite couch quarterback, man. Dante here, episode 56 of College Football Rush. Talk to you guys next time, man.